Welcome back, gentlefolk and rapscallions of all persuasions. I'm that one nerd girl here to talk to you about all of the Wind and Truth preview chapters that have been out so far. This is week 4 of them getting released, so we have the prologue, we have chapters 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and then this week chapters 5 and 6 came out. And I love that Brandon does this because I love getting to see a little sneak peek of the book that's coming out, and it also gives me a head start when the book actually does come out and I don't have to spend a solid chunk of time. I've already front-loaded that. I am really excited to keep going through these, and I will bring my thoughts and feelings on them in probably about a video a month until it releases, so that there's a good chunk of stuff to talk about. And if you somehow clicked on this video without knowing that this is going to be a spoiler talk about the Wind and Truth preview chapters, which you can read over on Reactor, then come back later. So we're going to get to spoilers in 3, 2, 1, let's jam. So there both is and isn't a lot to discuss about the Gavilar prologue, because one of the features of the Stormlight archive is that the prologue is the same event, the same night, taking place from different points of view. This one, we get the perspective of Gavilar on the last night that he's alive. And it rightfully glosses over the parts of that night that we already know from the other prologues that we've read, and we have a little bit of an overlap from the Eshonai and Navani segments that are really showing Gavilar's perspective when he was interacting with them. The biggest thing that we see is that he knows that he is interacting with very powerful men, but he doesn't know that they are heralds. And he doesn't realize what he's really getting himself into. And we get the sort of fading out of the end of his life. We get the other side of the Szeth assassination scene. Visions that have been shared with him, we kind of get the impression that the Stormfather is giving up on the royal line of Alethkar, and is going to be looking elsewhere. We later find out that Dalinar is getting these visions. Primarily, we know Gavilar is aware of the existence of the Ghostbloods, and maybe aware of the leader, which I did not tag other spoilers other than Stormlight, so I'm not going to reveal who that is. If you know, you know. We have Kaladin on a healing journey, which I am loving for him because it's been a long road for him. And he recognizes that not every day is going to be a good day, but he remembers the good days and knows that he'll be back there again. And so that kind of helps him when he's going through these rough times. Shallan is healing too. I have had an essay in the works for about 10 years now that I really should finish up before this book comes out, because there is so much hate for my girl Shallan, and there has been since Words of Radiance came out, because everybody is like, oh, why is she acting like this? I just want her to go back to how she was in the Way of Kings, and completely missing the point that she literally cannot, and the person that she was in Way of Kings was a lie she was telling herself. And we need to recognize that she is on a character arc, and it's going to tie up well because I trust Brandon Sanderson, and we all need to calm down a little bit on the Shallan hate wagon, okay? Okay. In one of these chapters, Shallan reflects on Vale as a separate identity, and that she served her purpose and has integrated back in. I think that the way that she is being handled as a character is done very well and very interestingly, with how she compartmentalizes the things that are upsetting or troubling, and the fact that the Order of the Lightweavers are the only ones that don't swear any oaths after the first one that's universal to all of the Knights Radiant. They have to admit truths. There is mention of Ba-Edo Mishram and her prison being in the spiritual realm, and we know that when Ba-Edo Mishram was bound, it did something to the Spren of Roshar, and specifically, it messed up a lot of the dynamics that were going on with the listeners. The listeners are what the remainder are calling themselves after they escaped from Narak, and their ability to bond the Spren that give them different forms. And we know that a lot of their forms have been lost. What I am hoping for in this book is the journey into the spiritual realm, because there was a glimpse of that in another one of Brandon's works. But I want to know how the spiritual realm is doing. I want this to be the Shadesmar interlude from Oathbringer that everybody else seemed to be upset about. I'm like, dude, we're finally seeing the cognitive realm as more than just a couple little glimpses. What are you upset about? We're getting backstory and lore, and it's great. So I'm thinking that this could open the door for a lot bigger dynamics, and we might have bigger problems than Odium. He has been kind of the big bad of the Cosmere for all of the little glimpses and things that we've seen of him so far. So I'm really excited to find out if he is the ultimate big bad, or if there's a greater force out there that's going to turn out to be worse. The Ghostbloods just might. They just might. And I want to see how that plays out too. There's a high likelihood that Dalinar might not make it out of this book because he has challenged Odium to a contest of champions, and things are about to go down on Roshar. Furthermore, who is the author of Knights of Wind and Truth? Because all of these epigraphs have sections that are taken from in-world books in the world of Roshar, and I want to know who the author of Knights of Wind and Truth is. I've seen theories online that it could be R'lain, who was talking about the two most important Knights Radiant in his life, which are Kaladin and Renarin. Wind and Truth could also be referring to Kaladin and Shallan, because Kaladin is obviously a Windrunner, Shallan obviously is a Lightweaver, and that whole you have to admit truths to yourself in order to advance. Renarin is a Truth Watcher, so that he has a corrupted spren. I don't know who exactly it's referring to, but I think that Kaladin and Shallan have the greatest likelihood of having their arcs resolved in this book, which is why I kind of think it's them that he's talking about, because we've come a long way with these people. I think that it could be talking about Kaladin and Szeth, because Szeth had the power of a Windrunner for a while when he was holding the, there's a specific name for it, but it was the Herald's Blade. Yes. I need to look this up. Okay, yes, it was Yezrian's Honor Blade. The Honor Blades are what the blades that the Heralds had were called, and Yezrian is the platonic ideal of the Order of Knights Radiant that the Windrunners became. We are being told that the wind has abandoned Roshar, which is hilarious because all of these hurricane-force storms sweep across the continent at reasonably predictable intervals, but it's not like the Everstorm, which comes exactly every 9 days and is the opposite direction of the high storm. And so to say that the winds have abandoned Roshar is that going back to the rhythms and the tones of the worlds that we went into a lot in Rhythm of War, where Raboniel and Navani were figuring out how to combine the sort of human spirit and the listener native rhythms to create something completely different and new. And we get a little bit of this in Hoid's section, where I freaking love Hoid. I need to do a whole video on Hoid. Kaladin walks in and describes Hoid as a very relaxed king on a rather cushy throne when he's sitting in a sofa in Dalinar's waiting room. I just got to the part of Way of Kings in my obligatory have to go back through the rest of the series before this one comes out, where Hoid tells Kaladin the story of the Wandersail and all of the passengers on this ship that shipwrecked on this island. These people were using the excuse of this emperor who was looking down at them to excuse all of the things that they were doing to their own people in his name. And it turned out that he was dead, and so all of these people were doing these things to themselves, and they had nobody to blame for it and nobody to justify it. The story of the Wandersail is one of the rhythms of Roshar, with the tones of gods older than yours. Hoid just dropping these things casually on Kaladin's head, and I freaking love it. And one of my new favorite Hoid quotes, "Immortality doesn't seem to go as far as it once did, kid." I love Hoid every time he shows up on the page, and he's been dropping more and more things that I would ordinarily not like being info dumped, but because it is Hoid, and because he is just a force of chaos that just breezes through and is just messing up everybody's day. It's great. It's freaking great. Wrote down this quote too. "If hope doesn't mean anything when you lose, then it wasn't ever a virtue in the first place. It took me a long time to learn that, and I finally did so from the writings of a man who lost every belief he thought he had, then started over new." And if you read the entire Cosmere, you can probably guess who he's talking about. If not, go and read the chapter. He says it. I am not giving spoilers for anything other than Stormlight Archive. I have to keep reminding myself of that, because otherwise I will, because all of this gets interconnected like a spiderweb. And that brings us to Shallan is in Lasting Integrity, and she's drawing all of these pictures, and things are sneaking into her drawings, kind of like when she started drawing Pattern in Kharbranth as a figure in the background of the portraits that she was trying to do. There is a face that is showing up in the shadows that she's drawing when she's sitting here. And she has a very interesting conversation with somebody that harkens back to when it was described in Way of Kings how Shallan takes a memory, capital M memory, of people, and then she can draw an almost perfect portrait of them, and she describes it as snipping a bud of their soul free. The words of Brandon from a long, long time ago, when we know that what she's doing there is not a regular Lightweaver ability. It is something else. And we know that souls are the stuff of the spiritual realm and the stuff of raw investiture. So, she has this conversation where somebody asks her how long she's been touching on fortune. And we know that fortune is what lets people see into the future in the Cosmere, and we don't know why it's so forbidden on Roshar, we don't know why it's so bad, that's never been explicitly said yet. But if Shallan is dancing with fortune, and she is working on people by, when she was drawing those portraits of Gaz and the ruffians that she was with in Wars of Radiance, and kind of reimagining them, like, what would they be if they were these, like, noble soldiers that they aspired to be? And it's like looking through the multiverse and picking a path where that happened and drawing that. And so I think that's a really interesting thing that happened, and it wasn't a super detailed conversation if you weren't already aware of fortune and the fact that this is what's going on, and the fact that Renarin is using this also to sort of see into the future. Then it might have skipped you by, but I'm really excited to see where this goes. And then lastly, Dalinar makes Kaladin his heir, which was freaking great because Kaladin's just like, no, I don't want this. Why are you doing this to me? I already don't want the prestige of being a shard bearer and being a landholder of some place in Alethkar that I'm never going to go and visit. And so somebody's just going to be administrating this land that technically belongs to me, I guess. I don't want this. I don't want to be a Light Eyes. I don't want to be nobility, let alone royalty. Do not make me your heir, please. And Dalinar's like, okay, that's fine, I respect your decision, but will you respect me and at least think about it? And Kaladin's like, okay, fine, I guess I will. And that's where Chapter 6 leaves us off for this week. If you like this video, do all those delicious things that feed the almighty algorithm. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!